Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, today I'm talking to Leatherface. How are you doing today?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm great, Chet. How are you?
I'm good, so I'll just get straight to the point. Why are we talking to you today?
Okay, great question, Chet. I'm here today to let the people know what I've been up to.
Alright, what is it you want to tell our audience?
Well, that I've changed, I've matured. I mean, you kill scores of people and everyone wants to hold it over your head just for the rest of your life, and that doesn't seem very fair to me. I'm not the same Leatherface that I used to be. I've went to school, I've lost a bunch of weight, I got a new face, plus I've been seeing a speech therapist.
Well, that's great to hear. So does that mean you don't kill people anymore?
Yep. Sure, that too.
Well, that's fantastic. Is there anything else you want the people to know?
Yes, I'm actually opening up a new restaurant next week. It's called Leather's Meat Grinder. It's a barbecue joint, and I think you'd actually, I actually have to take this. It's for the restaurant. Leather's Meat Grinder. Oh, you'd like to order some catering? This Friday for 200 people. I actually won't have enough meat to cover that until next week. Oh, you'll pay double. Um, okay, yeah, I'll figure something out. All right, Friday at noon. Thanks.
Sounds like business is already booming. Where are you going to get the extra meat
I
from?
think I might have just met someone that could help me out. Totally unrelated question, but how much do you weigh, Chet?
About 210. Why?
I think that could work. That'd probably work, yeah. Oh, no reason. Hey, can we cut the cameras? Also, can I borrow this?
Sure.
Hey, Chet, can I talk to you in private for a minute? All right. Today we're going to look at a classic, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, this is definitely an iconic horror movie, and even if you don't like it, you have to appreciate how well made it is, right? This belongs in the Horror Movie Hall of Fame. It most certainly paved the way for the entire horror genre, and in fact, right now they're working on the ninth film in this franchise. Robert Ebert pretty much summed it up when he reviewed it back in '74, saying, "No motivation, no background, no speculation on causes is evident anywhere in the film. It's simply an exercise in terror." Oh, before I forget, welcome to VHS on Tape. My name is Keith, and on this channel I do movie reviews for horror movies that came out in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. If that sounds like something you think you'd enjoy, hit that subscribe button. Also click the bell icon, that way you'll be notified when I upload new videos. If you think this is good, also hit that like button. That way this video will be able to be seen by more people. Oh, and also, don't forget to stick around to the end for some fun facts. Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out on October 11th, 1974 and runs for 1 hour and 23 minutes. And talk about low budget, it had an original budget of 60 grand. It was written by Kim Henkel and Tobe Hooper. It was directed by Tobe Hooper, and Hooper is a well-known name in the horror game. Obviously for this movie, it put his name on the map, but he's also directed others, including Poltergeist. I'll start off by saying yes, you absolutely should watch this movie if you haven't already seen it. I've included a link in the description where you can go watch it for free. I highly recommend that you go and watch that before watching this video, just because this will definitely have spoilers in it, and I know this movie is already 46 years old, which is crazy, but I don't want to ruin it for anyone who maybe hasn't seen it yet, especially you young whippersnappers out there. That being said, let's get into it. The movie starts off with one of the strongest intros that you're going to find in a horror movie. The rolling text is being narrated, and the voice and the tone for this is absolutely perfect.
It is all the more tragic in that they were young.
It sets the tone for the movie just beautifully. We are told that this film is an account of the tragedy that befell a group of 5 young people, and that the events of that day would lead to the discovery of one of the most bizarre crimes in American history, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The narrator, by the way, is John Larroquette. Most people would probably recognize him from Night Court. Like I said, he does a great job here.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
This is a great way to start because now people are thinking that this is based off of a true story, and that makes everything scarier. But in actuality, this was not based off a true story, but it was definitely inspired by Ed Gein. For those of you who don't know, Ed Gein was a killer in Wisconsin in the 50s. He's credited with killing 2 women, but there's probably more. He came into the public's eye, though, not because of how many people he killed, but what the police found at his house. See, he was also going grave robbing for women who looked like his mother, and he would proceed to make things out of their body parts. A wastebasket, some chair covers made out of skin, bowls made out of skulls, and masks made out of some of the faces. There's more, but you get the idea. He was also the inspiration for Silence of the Lambs and Psycho. The intro continues on with a black screen and flashes that illuminate body parts. Then we actually open on a close-up of a rotting face, and as the camera pans out, we see that it's actually a couple of bodies that have been staged together. We hear a radio report that police have discovered that someone went grave robbing at the cemetery and staged these bodies as some sort of weird, demented artwork. It's saying that people are flooding the cemetery to see if their loved ones were one of the ones that were dug up. I mean, holy crap! Talk about a great intro! It sets up perfectly the grotesque nature of what you're going to watch. And the way that they position the bodies is just creepy as hell. They do more in 3 minutes of this movie than some horror movies do in 90. We then meet the group. This is Kirk, played by William Vale. He had a small part in Poltergeist. In the wheelchair, we have Franklin, played by Paul Partain. He was in Race with the Devil. And knowing that this is a horror movie, right away you're thinking, man, it really sucks to be the guy in the wheelchair. They're stopping so Franklin can take a bathroom break, and I have no idea what causes him to fall down the hill here. After the intro that we had, this seems kind of comical to me. I think maybe they put it in there to kind of stress how incapable Franklin is of taking care of himself. We then meet Jerry, played by Alan Danziger. He was in Eggshells. Talking to him is Kirk's girlfriend Pam, played by Terry McMinn. This was her first acting role. Her next one wasn't until 2009. She is reading Jerry's horoscope, and this comes up a couple of times in the first part of the movie. They're going to the cemetery mentioned in the opening. Here we meet Sally, played by Marilyn Burns. Man, the 70s were a great time, weren't they? She was in Eaten Alive. Anyways, Sally and Franklin are brother and sister, and they're here to see if their grandpa was dug up. After they learn that their grandpa's grave was untouched, they head out. As they're driving down the road, they pass in front of the slaughterhouse, and Franklin explains that they used to kill the cows with a sledgehammer, and that they usually wouldn't die after only one hit. He then explains that now they use a big air gun with a bolt instead of the sledge. Then they spot a hitchhiker and decide to pick him up. And that's really a nice shot of the van pulling up for the hitchhiker. After Franklin makes a jerk comment about him,
I think we just picked up Dracula.
we meet the hitchhiker, played by Edwin Neal. He was in Future Kill. Franklin and him talk about the new versus old way to kill cattle, and the hitchhiker says the old way was better. We find out that his grandpa, his brother, and him worked killing cows, and now they're out of work. And this guy is a case study in why you don't pick up hitchhikers. Edwin Neal does a great job of playing a crazy guy. I also feel like the song on the radio somehow makes his action seem even more crazy. The juxtaposition of the happy tune versus talking about killing cows and his other actions is a very nice touch. After taking Franklin's knife and cutting his hand with it, he shows them that he also has a good knife. He then takes Franklin's picture, and when he doesn't want to pay him for it, burns it up and then cuts Franklin's arm before getting out of the van. He also marks it with his blood. As they head down the road, Pam reads Franklin's and Sally's horoscope, which gives some nice foreshadowing.
Could make this disturbing and unpredictable day.
We cut to this guy, played by Robert Curtin, who totally ditches the advice of not staring at the sun. He has a really small part with no lines, but I think this guy's awesome. He's working at a gas station where they stop to get gas and directions to Sally and Franklin's grandparents' house. We then meet Old Man, or the cook, played by Jim Sydow, who was also in the sequel to this movie. Here he's telling them that he doesn't have gas and that they probably don't want to go to the house because old abandoned houses can be dangerous. And again, I have to say, the 70s were great, weren't they? He suggests that they stay there and have some barbecue, and again, I love the window washer. They do get some barbecue, but then they head out. And I really love their use of wide shots in this movie. I mean, they're great. They get to the house, and Franklin gets a little obsessed with the hitchhiker, asking if Kirk thinks he would somehow follow them. And here we get a taste of the type of sounds that they use for their music. They don't have like a theme song for this movie, but what they did instead is use a bunch of really kind of off and eerie sounds, and it's just kind of scathing. It makes you feel uneasy just hearing it, but it works perfectly for this film. After looking around the house, Franklin tells Kirk and Pam where a swimming hole is, and they head out. Franklin discovers some weird things before we cut to Kirk and Pam. They discover that the swimming hole has dried up, but Kirk sees a house and hears a generator, so they decide to go there to see if they could get some gas. And again, I really can't say enough good things about the cinematography in this movie. I think it's amazing, especially for a horror movie. I also love the sunflowers here. I mean, it's such a pretty scenery against the terrible things that we find out later that have been happening in this house. They also find some cars that are being covered and hidden. After knocking open the front door, Kirk is looking around the house when he hears what sounds like a pig. When he goes in to investigate, he trips and we meet Leatherface. And this is awesome. I mean, there's no music to make you suspect anything is going to happen. It just comes out of nowhere. Also, this goes back to what Franklin said earlier about how usually the cows didn't die after the first hit. And I mean, this is horrifying to me. You get knocked on the head and then your body just flails around until you get hit enough. Then Leatherface slams the metal door shut, and I think they did this because it really helps contribute to the violent feel of the attack. Pam sees that Kirk has disappeared, and we get another great shot, for a couple of reasons, of her walking up to the house. She decides to go into the house to try and find him when she literally stumbles across a horror show. And here there is such great imagery of terror and the macabre. I mean, especially this one. It's wonderfully unsettling. When Pam goes to leave, we get another look at Leatherface, and having her get just outside, then being pulled back in is great. You're so close to freedom, but you never get there. And this next scene is always kind of hard for me to watch, which means they did it right. Also, this is horrifying to have to watch him cut up Kirk and not being able to do anything about it. Plus just knowing that you're probably going to be next. Just awful. We cut back to Jerry, Franklin, and Sally, where Jerry says he's going to go look for the other two before it gets too dark. He too finds his way to the house, and when at the door he hears what sounds like moaning this time. He goes in to investigate when he discovers that Pam has been stuck in a deep freeze and Leatherface shows up again. Then we get some really disturbing music, along with a closer look at Leatherface as he kind of appears to have a panic attack. The way Leatherface was played by Gunnar Hansen. He was in Campfire Tales. Cut back to Sally and Franklin at the van calling out for Jerry. Franklin says that they should go and get help, while Sally says she's not leaving without Jerry. Turns out that the keys aren't there, so they have to go head out and look for Jerry. As Sally is pushing Franklin, he says a couple of times that he hears something. He says it one more time before they stop, and Leatherface appears again. And I've said it before when I reviewed Shadow Zone, but I love when they put this kind of stuff in horror movies. You know, it's dark out and they know something out there, they can just feel it, but they can't see it until it's too late. And again, there's no music leading up to it, it just happens really fast and out of nowhere. Very nicely done. Sally takes off running again, and I also love this part because as she's running, you can hear the chainsaw behind her. I mean, it's great. She comes across a house and runs inside before she discovers that it's Leatherface's house. Here we get some more disturbing imagery along with some unsettling noises. Sally escapes by running through a window, which is pretty damn hardcore. We get some really great scenes of her being chased, and these are just masterfully done. I mean, we have Sally running, and then we get the over-the-shoulder of Leatherface chasing her. The way it's lit, too, it does a perfect job of building tension. Sally finds herself back at the gas station from earlier, and the old man is still there. She tells him what happened, and he goes to pull the truck around and leaves the door wide open. And you're watching it, you're just waiting for Leatherface to show up, another tension builder. The old man comes in with a sack and a rope, and we find out that he's not going to help her. And with how closely this is filmed, it really makes it feel personal. He gets her tied up and puts her in the truck. While driving, we see that he's also crazy. While driving towards the house, we see the hitchhiker again, and we find out that he was the one responsible for what happened at the graveyard at the beginning. They get into the house, and we find out that the old man, the hitchhiker, and Leatherface are all related, and that they are a very demented family. After tying Sally up, they go and get their grandpa, who Sally saw earlier. After they bring him down, they cut her finger so the grandpa can have some blood. And the look on her face as this is happening is just pure terror. She did a great job in this movie. Sally then passes out. When she wakes up again, she sees that they're having dinner. We also get some more really gruesome shots. I mean, you notice the extra set of hands on her chair? Leather and his brother go in for a closer look, and it's just so creepy. We also get some close-up shots of her eyes, which really help sell the frantic mood of what's going on. We find out that the old man doesn't actually do any of the killing.
Can't take no pleasure in killing.
But he does seem to enjoy the tormenting part. They decide to let their grandpa have some fun because supposedly he was the best killer at the slaughterhouse. We then see that grandpa isn't as good as he used to be, and when the family fights over who should actually kill Sally, she gets up and runs through a window again. Hey, if it worked the first time. As she's running down the driveway, the hitchhiker and Leatherface chase after her. Also, I would have to say that she is the original Scream Queen. As the hitchhiker gets closer, he starts slashing her back with his razor until a semi comes along and he gets destroyed. After the semi driver pulls over, he sees what's chasing Sally and he's like, nope, not today. And then as they're running away, the driver hits Leatherface in the head with a wrench, which causes him to cut his own leg. Just then a pickup is driving by and Sally gets him to stop and she hops in and they just get away. We then see this iconic shot of Leatherface swinging his chainsaw around before cutting to black and the movie ends. So to answer the question on the video's title, yes, this movie is a masterclass on how to craft an excellent horror movie. I mean, the way this was shot, even while being a low budget movie, we still get some really great cinematic shots. Also, the acting is pretty good. The way it was filmed, just the grittiness of it, is absolutely perfect. And all of the morbid imagery throughout really sets the mood of the film. This is one of the first slasher films, and it's influenced a lot of horror movies to come. I know by today's standards, it might not seem that intense, and also the fact that they have redone this a couple of times, so the story to people who haven't seen it yet isn't new, but this is the original, and it's masterfully done. This movie really paved the way for all other horror movies to come. And now for some fun facts. Tobe Hooper got the idea for this movie while Christmas shopping. He was standing in line and there were so many people around him that he was trying to think of a way that he could get out when he noticed some chainsaws and zoned in on them and figured out a way he could get out. John Dugan, the guy who played the grandpa, decided that he hated the aging makeup process so bad that he would only do it once, which meant that they had to film all of his scenes at once, which ended up taking around 30 hours. Texas was also going through a heat wave at the time and the house didn't have any air conditioning. So for the dinner scene, they had rotting food and dead animals being affected by the heat, so a lot of the crew ended up actually getting ill during the shooting. The film's original distributor was Bryanston Distribution Company, which turned out to be a mafia front operated by Luis Pereno, I believe, who used the movie to launder profits he made from the film Deep Throat. Now, I don't know about anyone else, but I'm actually really craving some barbecue right about now. I wonder what time Leather's meat grinder closes. So would I recommend Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Oh, yeah, man.
Hell yeah, I would. I mean, it really is a great iconic horror movie. What did you think? Have you seen this movie? Did you like it? Let me know in the comments. Last week I reviewed a movie called Mutant, and I'll link that up so you can check it out too. Well, that's gonna do it for today. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.